Hey guys, this is Slacker. Welcome to another video. This video is going to be a 3-step guide on how to escape low elo by playing jungle. Tip number 1 is pick a strong early game jungler. This is very important now that the meta has shifted, so the scaling on the camps is not as high as it used to be. So now the jungling has become even more early game focused than before. And the other reason for this is that you can counter jungle and avoid being counter jungled. Here I strongly recommend Xin Zhao because he doesn't have any skill shots to rely on, so you can put all of your focus into dodging the opponent's skill shots if they have any. And he's a strong duelist, so 9 out of 10 times you'll still be able to beat him, even though you do not dodge their skill shots. There are of course exceptions to this rule. Do not try to duel juggernaut junglers like Trundle or Olaf because they most likely will stomp you. Step number 2. This is find a proper path. And here I recommend, if you're playing a strong early game jungler, which if you follow step 1, to generally be starting at your red buff because it's good for level 2 ganks, and many of the strong early game junglers have good level 2 ganks, Jarvan, Xin Zhao, Camille. If you start red and then go to your blue side of your jungle, the reason for this is that you'll avoid any kind of counter jungling if you go directly from red and then to the blue side. And this will make sure that the enemy can't steal any of your buffs. They can of course go down to your red side and take some of the camps there, but that doesn't matter. And if you go you don't have to take them back to back, you can go red to the opposite scuttle. And another reason this is a very smart choice is that many of the early game junglers do not have good AoE damage. Let's take Xin Zhao again. So he wants to avoid the Raptors and the Krug since his AoE damage early game is not very good. And you can avoid that by going from red to the blue side, because the blue side is blue buff, Gromp, and the Wolves, which are not really heavily AoE camped compared to the Raptors and the Krugs. So that was a proper path for the early game junglers. So step number 3, and this is the most important jungling step. And this is just the most important thing if you want to become a good jungler. And it is how to gank. So in low elo, do not rely much on your lane to follow up quick or even make the first move on the gank. This means that you'll have to judge if the enemy laner can kill you if your laner doesn't help you. Let's say you're going to gank a top laner and he can kill you if your laner does not act quick. Then you should probably just avoid the gank, unless of course you have a way to escape if your laner doesn't help you, because this could just result in you dying and your laner will be set behind because the enemy laner just got a kill, and he'll probably also flame you because hey, it's low elo. So avoid doing this. And a quick note on that is that it can be very difficult to gank bot lane in lower elo because of you'll need some kind of follow up, because you can't just 2v1 the bot lane. And you can't rely on getting follow up. So actually I do recommend trying to avoid ganking bot lane most of the time, because you can't rely on a follow up and you can't gank it without any kind of follow up in low elo. So try to avoid ganking bot lane unless it's pretty much free kills, or your top lane and mid lane is feeding and it's your only option for winning the game pretty much. Remember, if your top lane and mid lane is feeding, do not gank them, because the old do not gank a losing lane, especially if they're losing by more than 1 kill. Next tip on tip number 3, or step number 3, how to gank, is make sure there is not a giant wave pushing into the lane that you're trying to gank, unless it has already hit the tower. But still, if it has already hit the tower, in that case, do not expect any help from your laner, because instead of following up on the gank, which is unreliable enough in itself, he or she will probably farm the minions at the tower instead of trying to help you. So the chances of your laner not assisting you is even larger if the minion wave is at the tower. Oh, but if it's a big minion wave and it hasn't crashed the tower yet, do not try to gank, because you'll take way too much minion damage unless you're pretty high level. But in the early levels, it's a very bad idea. And so the final tip on step number 3 is to learn how to gank when you get into the lane, then learn which abilities to use. So this is arguably the most important one, and it is to save your gap closer if it's possible. Let's say you're playing Xin Zhao again, and you're trying to gank and the enemy laner is overextended, and you can just run up to him and press Q and start attacking him, maybe even get the knockup. Because chances are that he'll have flash up, or it is a champion with some kind of dash. And if you have not used your dash yet, so you can save it for when they flash or they use their dash, and then you can dash over to them, or even if they have both, you can use your flash and your dash to catch up to them. And this will greatly increase the chance of getting a kill, instead of just going in and mindlessly blowing your gap closer at the start. This was all I had for the 3-step guide to escape lower elo by playing jungle. So if you take these 3 steps and you implement them to your game, you will see a greatly skill increase, and it will have an effect on how you not only play the game but just view the game as a whole. So this was all I had for this video. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. This was Slacker. See ya.